What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I got a couple things to kind of bring up and talk about. Hopefully add something positive to your mental diet. It's really easy sometimes to get carried away with media that just reinforces old patterns of belief of our old mindsets, especially those mindsets of fear and separation. And then it's like, oh, you look out into the world, you see the media, and it's just like, oh, more of the same shit, more of the same drama, more of the same fear, more of the same lies. And it becomes like kind of like, why am I wasting my time then listening to liars and things that aren't real or true? And so putting your attention on your mental diet, trying to really get in kind of the ideal state of mind, I feel like is a really important thing to do, especially considering it's only ever now. And so, what else are you going to be doing? You're going to spend the present moment unconsciously suffering, telling yourself stories that aren't real, or are you going to start to move in the direction of truth and telling yourself, things that are aligned with what God says about you? What does love say about you? And it's always now when we ask that question, that's one of the illusions of the old mindset of this idea of linear time, where it's just like, oh, there's a tomorrow that this thing's going to happen, so I'm going to spend the entire present moment suffering and grinding for this payday tomorrow. Then when tomorrow gets there, it's still now, and then it's the next tomorrow, and you just spend the entire present moment just in your mind projecting into the future, or just grinding through the present moment. Something I have done a lot of in the past, especially with doing music, just sacrificing and grinding for this big you made it moment. And instead of having that be a future reality, part of the law of assumption, and I believe even the law of assumption is a biblical kind of understanding where you ask, believe, and receive, and so it's like bringing that belief into the present moment, that future payday to now, because ultimately God has already blessed us, and it's pretty clear in like the Bible, if you read it for yourself. I'm not going to go over all these scriptures and everything, to just embody the state of you are already blessed now. It's like you have nothing to prove to anybody. God's already pleased with you, so it's a process of realizing it and embodying and being that, and so a lot of times, some things can hit our attention, especially people, others, but and it can either, if we're in a state of fear, a lot of times people will mirror back to us these fears, and a lot of times it can kind of spin you out. It spins me out at times until I become more mindful of the fact that everything's deliberately happening. It's not just some accident or coincidence. It's deliberate on some level, and the problem is not so much that it's happening. It's the why. Why is this happening? I don't understand. It's the lack of understanding that starts to spin the drama. Starts spinning the worry and the concern, and and it's even these low grade worries and concerns. It's like I got invited to start playing guitar at the church I've been going to. So like today, Sunday today, but when you watch this is now. But as I'm recording this, I got done playing guitar earlier today, and it's just like, these low grade kind of anxieties of oh, what if I have a hard time sitting still, being up in front of everybody. What if I have the song sheets out of order? What if my guitar goes out of tune? What if the microphone or the headphone? All these what ifs and worst case scenarios. And it's it's not the first time I've done that. I've been playing guitar at the other church I was going to too, and I didn't even really seek to do that. It just kind of came together, just because I don't know how it happened. It just happened, and I was just like, okay, sure, and so kind of just went with it, because a lot of times, I don't really resist and struggle against bridges of incidents. There's times that if inwardly it's this isn't resonating, that's one thing, but if it's if it just happens, I'm trying more and more so to just trust that God's plan is always just fulfilling itself in the present moment, taking a lot of my own personal I'm gonna say my own ego will or whatever, because the more and more I kind of focus on this kind of spiritual path, the more that you see that the ego the ego mind, the carnal mind, as the Bible would say, is an illusion, but there's a season that the things play out, so it's like part of this process, and not to sit there and wrestle and battle against it, but a lot of like my old kind of like ways of doing things, it's like, oh, I gotta control things, I just gotta have things play out exactly in a specific way. A lot of that is trauma based, it doesn't seem like it, but once you really start to unpack a lot of like why you try to control things, a lot of it's to try to keep yourself safe, and realizing more and more, so it's like trying to control like these outcomes when everything is constantly in a state of flow and change, is counterproductive. It's more of like kind of appreciating the uniqueness of every moment, really, but like every day is different. It's like, oh, oh, what do you mean it's blue sky and 70 degrees and slight wind, but it's like you never see the exact same clouds, you never see the exact same day. It's similar. It's like, yeah, it's like here it's fall, so it's like, kind of, I like this time of year, but I like spring more because then it's like spring into like warm weather. I like warm weather, but I'm trying not to, really wrestle and battle against like winter, because there's been so many times, especially in this house, where it's just like freaking out about like the electric bill and like the heating costs and stuff. But, over the years, I've like added more insulation, bundled the house up better, winterized things better. Even yesterday, I just like put a bunch of insulation up that I got for free, just from doing jobs and stuff. Yeah, and so I ended up putting that in. So I'm actually kind of excited. We haven't ran the furnace yet, and it's been like frost on the windows in the morning, and plus like I don't know if I mentioned like going to the junkyard this past like week or 2 weeks ago. I got a new blower motor for, it's not new, it's like out of a junked vehicle, but new to me. But like, yeah, that thing blowing really hot air in my work van. Yeah, and so kind of preparing for winter, but then like not trying to be like afraid of winter, because like where I live, it's like winters can be intense, like to the point where you could take like water in a glass and throw it up into the air and it won't come back down. It'll like freeze midair. And I've seen that, a couple of times, we'd take the kids out and just like, when it's really cold, and throw it up in the air, and it just like turns to like, almost like it looks like mist or like fog, and then it just floats away, which is pretty wild. But like, yeah, but if you get like stranded or something, I mean, if you didn't have a phone and we're out in the elements, you could probably die. But, yeah, there's a lot of civilization and stuff though around, so it's like you're probably, again, especially if you're out in the country, someone will probably stop. But like, yeah, and so when it comes to like winter, even just like not stressing about it as much, even though trying to appreciate it more, but it's a work in progress. But like, looking at all these things that are happening through a different lens, in a lens that you can start to redefine these narratives and stories, so it's like, oh, winter's coming, you better be ready for these winter heating costs, and fear, scarcity, and it's like, again, these are these low grade types of like anxieties where it's like, oh, there's a bear and there's it's like, I have to fight it, or like pretend I'm dead, or whatever. That's one type of fear. But it's just it's constant nagging, kind of like, what if this happens? Oh, what if that person stares at you funny and thinks that you're a goofball, or whatever. It's like these stupid things. Getting more and more able to watch that, go, oh, okay, well, that's the old narrative. I'm not going to reaffirm that same story. I'm just going to tell myself something different instead, because this is retarded to keep telling myself this stuff. It never happens, and it's destroying my peace of mind right now. And so really keeping peace of mind very kind of in the forefront of what's going on, and also looking at things as like, I don't know what this means. It's like, I don't need to know what this means right now, because like the old mind thinks it knows everything. This is happening because this person's has got some issues and they need help, and it's like, I don't know why that's happening. When I was at church today, people just started talking on the microphone, and I was like sitting in the front of the church, and it's like just passing it to one person to the next. I don't know why that was going on. The pastor didn't even do a sermon because of it, but like, I don't, the old mind wants to like sit and, have stories and narratives about that. But instead of like letting the mind run wild, just like, nip it really fast and like, I don't know what this means. I don't need to know what it means. But this narrative shit that I'm doing in my mind is not helpful. So I know this much. I'd rather have peace than this chatter of judgment and superiorness and like, better than these other people or whatever. This story in the mind is telling you. Looking at that more and more, like not to sit there and battle and whatever against it, but going, this is only going on in my mind, and I could choose peace instead of this horse shit I'm telling myself. And the more you start to do that, the easier it is to snap out of these almost mental spells, because, as you're looking out towards like creation, towards others, realize nothing's an accident or a coincidence, and that everything is helping you evolve your consciousness to this kind of awakening, and that's the kind of the binary of like, culture at the moment, where I'm at. It's like you see like the great reset versus the great awakening, but then you have like the mockery where it's like the woke is like the most unconscious, and so much of that stuff you can sit there and just get carried away with it, and it's like, for what purpose? What is that going to prove? It's like, when I get on like YouTube or Bitchute or any of these platforms, like, what's the point of what I'm doing? It's like, why is this action, what is like the end result, because so much of like the old mind is like working in reverse from the metaphysical, where it's just like the old identity is like, you need to have the external thing, and then that will correspond to a feeling. And most of the stuff, we're just doing these things to feel good, and it's like, most of what we're doing, even the stuff that we're condemning and judging ourselves for, there's a spiritual reason why we're doing it, and it's important to take all of those things in prayer to God, not to sit there and shame and guilt yourself over these things, but realize that, what these perceived weaknesses, that you might be telling yourself that you're not worthy, or, some piece of shit, or like guilty of something, or shame, or, these quote unquote weaknesses, if you bring them to God, it will become your greatest strengths, and so, have a different story that you're telling yourself of like, I'm just condemned, and I'm just, deserving of hell. It's like, what? Why do I keep telling myself that? That's fucking retarded. And like, yeah, you start to catch that over and over again. It's like, that's not who I am anymore. Because all of that we're doing in a lot of ways is really exploring our new identity. And so when you get these stories and dramas from the old identity, the old you that was like, just like a separate brain and a body that's separate from God and separate from people and separate from circumstances and everything, it has no idea the connectedness of all things. Yeah, you just start to, for one, stop reaffirming the same stories as they come into your consciousness, not to sit there and battle and resist them either, because as you do that, it starts to strengthen them. But, as you kind of just have a non-resistant attitude of like, oh, well, that's like the old story I used to tell myself. Hey, God, what's a new story I can tell myself instead? What's a better alignment? And it's like, you might get some more resistant thought, another resistant thought, maybe 4 or 5 stories that you've told yourself over and over again that you think is what is real. But keep doing that. Keep asking yourself over and over again, hey, God, no, that wasn't new. Hey, that wasn't new. Well, what's a different way? And then just be still. Eventually you'll run out of these prepackaged stories that are in your subconscious, and you'll get a new kind of nugget of inspiration or a little download or something. You could look at it like that. And it's like, oh, for one, that was like a healing thought. For two, that's kind of brought me some peace to think of it in that way. And then as you kind of work on, you don't got to figure out the game plan. You just need to realize that God's already got the game plan and you're exactly where you need to be. You don't have anything to prove. God already loves you. And it's like, start to enjoy this process. Start to enjoy the peace and the joy, and set the intention that today I'm going to have more peace and joy than I did yesterday. And if there's any story that comes up, maybe people come up, maybe some resistant people or people that are mirroring some aspects of consciousness that are just like, what the what is going on with this person, but like even these, or people bring their drama and their suffering to you, and it's like, why do you keep bringing this to me? And it's like, I'm not your therapist. Why are you talking to me like this? Realize that even these people, even though they appear separate, they're part of God's consciousness, being externalized, and also showing you an aspect and something in your own being that you can do. And, not to sit there and like, oh, I got to do something. It's like, you just need to be still. And when the inspiration comes to speak, you can speak it, and just let it flow. Or you could see them as the state that they're desiring to be, so it's like someone comes up to you and it's just like, oh, I just like got fired because I wouldn't take an experimental medical procedure, from my job, and it's like, it's almost Christmas and I don't know what to do. It's like, you can listen to the person, but also, start seeing them as being successful, that they have another job, that it's all going to miraculously come together, that God's taking care of that person, and as you do that, you start to feel that energy inside of yourself as you're wishing a better state on somebody. And not to sit there and like every person, like, because people have to walk their own path. It's one thing if somebody asks you, it's another to assume they want you to change their state, because, some people enjoy the state they're in, even if that's a state of suffering, so it's not for you to judge or condemn, or to, impose your will on somebody else's free will, but if God is bringing someone to you and they're venting their inner narrative to you, listen carefully to what they're trying to express. And a lot of it is like, I'm in a state, I don't know how I got in this state, it unconsciously kind of happened, because we've always been doing this. This isn't something new, it's just something that we haven't been very aware of. Some people, through their upbringing, parents had like maybe abundance foundations, that they're just bred into them, and they're really strong, and maybe like abundance, but like their relationships are dog shit, but like everybody's different. But if you are more and more conscious and aware of this kind of dynamic, especially if you've like studied like Neville Goddard, the law of assumption, some of these metaphysicians, Joseph Benner, and there's like a laundry list of all these people, but like, the Bible even, I mean, there's a time and there's a place, and when God connects those two dots for you, and it's triggering something within you, especially if you're sitting there judging the other person, or like you're putting yourself on a pedestal compared to them, really check yourself when that's going on, and see if there's either see them in a different state that is what they actually are desiring, or do you need to extend some sort of forgiveness to so you'd be amazed, some of the shit people will just, especially if you're becoming more and more present. And I don't know if they're aware that they're doing this or not, but it's happened to me personally so regularly, where people will just like tell you, like admit very fucked up things. It's like, really? Okay. Well, I don't know why I look like the kind of person you can just tell me that you stole a whole bunch of money and you robbed somebody and this and that. And it's like, I've just met you. It's like, what are you trying to intimidate me or something? But like, yeah, and that's just like a hypothetical, but it's not that far off, but like, but a lot of times it's stuff that you've also been doing, but like maybe secretly. It's weird, but you start to realize that it's connected in this weird way, but it could be an opportunity for you to extend forgiveness. Sometimes it's really easy to maybe forgive a stranger as opposed to like somebody very close to you, like a spouse, your wife, or your husband, or your family, your kids, all these kinds of things. It's that might be harder on some level than some just some person off the street, basically. just telling you their life story, but like, take those opportunities to at least like pray God's will be done on them. It's like, I don't know what to do. I don't need to know what to do. I just need to trust that God's already taken care of it. I can't mess this up. That's the other end of it. And it's just like, you don't really have to do. That's part of like this old mindset of like, it's you and you gotta force something through. You gotta do some shit. You gotta, make the phone ring. You gotta do all this and that. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of like this new is like, trusting that God's already taken care of it. That person in this like moment in time, is exactly where they need to be. That things are, unfolding perfectly for them, and, coming together. They brought a state they don't know how to get out of it. Sometimes, you can get into a state and don't know how to get out of it. You ask, the same thing. You go within, ask God how to get you out of the state. A lot of it is just trusting that God's already sees you as out of the state. It's just like, part of like begging and pleading for like, maybe abundance, is like, realizing that you are already abundant. It's like God's already gave it to you. You just got to stop pushing it away. And by pushing it away is it's like, it's something our old mind kind of does, where it's just like, I can't believe that's real. It's like, I need to see it before I can believe it. Where in this kind of new kind of way of doing things, it's believing it in. It's like you believe it and then it will happen. Where it's just like, and that's the contradiction that the old mind wants to wrestle and battle against. But the funny thing is even if that in the old mindset, if if it manifested whatever, it would still find a reason to deny it. It's like you could be like praying for like, maybe it's like, oh, my power's going to get shut off, or it's like I'm about out of food or whatever. So I just need something to break loose. Boom, you get like somebody just drops off a bunch of food or something. It's like, what? And then immediately like the mind will come in like, well, that was just a coincidence. That couldn't have possibly been because of blah blah. And it'll just start everything under the in your consciousness, it'll throw at you why that wasn't just like a miraculous thing. It would have happened anyway. That's a common, it would have just happened because it happens so naturally. It feels like, oh, it just would have happened because part of like, as you're going through these bridges of incidents, a lot of it, you don't recognize it till it's like, oh, I'm already at the end of it, and that was like exactly what I was like asking for. And you don't realize it until you look backwards of like, oh, I just went through this like little, and now I've arrived. But like, and the more that you do that, the less that you have to deal with this doubt, that starts to emerge over and over again. And it's just through repetition. You see it enough times where it's like, I don't got to worry about the how, it's just going to happen. And I just need to be whatever I'm desiring, not to shame yourself for your desires, because God's given you those desires. And so to sit there and be who you actually are is to kind of wear that state to begin with. It's like, how whatever you're desiring, it's not probably not even the actual thing. You probably just want to feel good, because you feel like shit and are being tormented with fear in your mind, but like, and you think that by doing X, Y, and Z, that'll make that suffering stop. Just ask God, what to do, but then embody, ask, then believe. It's like, how would you feel knowing that you're already that way? When God, you asked, God already sees you like that. God sees you as a masterpiece and not some broken toy, but like, but then put it on like clothes, and as you do, your life situations and circumstances, events, people, everything, you'll start to mirror that change in consciousness, and to a point where it starts to harden into fact. And by the time you get to that new state, you're already like prepared for it. It's weird. I noticed that like with my handyman business versus like when I was just basically myself doing it, my family, to hiring new like strangers and stuff. It's like by the time that finally happened, it wasn't a big jump. You know, it wasn't some big, you know, like, oh my God. There was a little bit of that, but, you know, there was like a preparation, and it just kind of just worked out. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, exactly what I was like looking to achieve is now an actual reality, you know. And it's wild when you do it over and over again. It's just like, it's just how things are, and it's awesome, you know. And you know, hopefully more and more people will start putting that on and trying that for themselves, because this is for everybody to do. I mean, and it's only ever now, so it's like, what else are you going to do? You know, are you going to just sit there and suffer in your mind and believe worst case scenarios and fear? And you know, the great reset, you know, it's, oh, the billionaires are coming to get you, you know, nothing little you can do about it. You know, it's like, you know, creation is functioning the way it's supposed to. You know, and the people that are trying to dominate and enslave others are only going to be dominate and enslaved themselves, because we're all connected, and what you do to others you only do to yourself. You know, and so, you know, definitely, no, you know, focus on treating people the way you want to be treated. You know, if you don't want to be dominated and enslaved, you know, probably don't do that to others. You know, it's a good philosophy to follow. You know, and realize that, you know, that man, there comes like a fear of like, oh my God, you know, what if that really happens? You know, what happens to me and this and that? It was just like, take your own self out of it and realize that God's will is playing out perfectly. You can't screw it up. You can't, little old you can't supersede the will of God. You know, that's one of the arrogant ideas of the ego, that, you know, you can, you know, like break just like unconsciously the will of God. Just unconsciously aware, oops, my bad. I just stepped over the line, and you know, yeah, but like that's for another conversation. But like I think that's about it, you know. And so I think I'm gonna bounce. I got put up like my wife wants me to put what do you call it, a TV mount on the wall, and put the TV on the wall. So I'm trying to get that done. I gotta clean the chicken coop out, and yeah, we've been getting a lot of eggs, and we've been selling the eggs now. So yeah, they're kind of like paying for their own food, which is nice. We got home from church and they were all just out. You know, I don't know if the turkey just barreled through the fence, but it was like turkey and all these chickens and ducks just standing in the road. It's like, oh my gosh. You know, I might start a fire then too. You know, I got some things to burn. I got to, you know, get more wood from all the doors I replaced earlier last week. Yeah, I'm gonna just burn a lot of them jams and stuff, and get the metal to some metal scrappers and let them do whatever with it. And yeah, other than that, I think I'm gonna bounce. So, you know, thanks everybody for listening, and liking, sharing, subscribing. I appreciate you guys' spiritual support and financial support. You know, thank you for that. And until the next now, God bless.